Hello, everyone, and welcome back. If you went the other way, or were on our conversation on Friday, this is I call her the Queen. It is Queen Limoy. We were having this phenomenal conversation, and were in the flow of it. And unfortunately, the tech gods and goddesses, or whatever that energy was, just didn't want to see us through that conversation. But what we decided to do was come back out there and do this conversation again. And what we were talking about, which is so delicious, is stepping into, I'm actually calling this one like our journey into queerness. And it really feels to me like a little of afternoon delight. It's some afternoon delight. And I want to shout out, hello, Colleen. Colleen is one of my most favorite peoples. She always comes on and she's always ready for these conversations. Anybody else who joins in, I want you guys to really this is a space where we're going to be talking. And we want to hear your thoughts, your questions, any kinds of, anything that you have. Put it in the chat, and let's see if we can, have a dialogue between all of us as we go on. So we got to start at the beginning. Limoy, could you just introduce yourself? Tell people who you are, why I think you're such an incredible goddess soul being. And tell us who you are. Let's start there.
Hey, so I am Limoy, 30-something, Jamaican-born Canadian resident. I am a spoken word artist by career. I've been doing that for over a decade. So I use language for a living. I believe in the power of language. I believe in the power of weaving spells through our words. I believe in the power of storytelling. Being, of the diaspora, being Caribbean, we are a culture of storytellers. And I believe that our stories are what sets us free. The ability to dig deep into the recesses of who we are and to expose ourselves in the ways that illuminate our truth in order to help someone else illuminate their own truth is a power I do not take for granted. I am a single mom to a beautiful little fairy, an 8-year-old little fairy. I named her Jewel because she is my jewel. She saved me. She domesticated me and she saved me.
I love that.
Because I was not trying to be tied down. but I believe that the creator saw that I needed stability and grounding and balance. And so he blessed me with my jewel, and I love her deeply. And I'm a wild, restive, bohemian woman. I believe that rules are meant to be broken. And I believe that rules are meant to stretch and expand. I believe in peace. I believe in happiness, joy. I believe in curating an intentional life of pleasure and bliss. And I am here to show people that they can shift their perspective in ways that best serve them and best set them free. My motto for 2021 has been watch me be free and find your own freedom.
Can you guys see why I love her so much? I mean that was just such a beautiful opening, and what I love about it is just you can tell that you are a wordsmith. I can see that you are a word mistress in the way that the words dance with you. They dance literally. And I so appreciate, and you set the scene for this incredible conversation. I just want to shout out once again, if you are here and joining us, put a little comment in the chat. We want to hear from you. I want to know who's here, who's not here. Hello, Maria. sending love. Thank you for joining us as we have this important conversation. Right? She's quoting you, Queen. She's saying that I love you, watch me be free and find your own freedom. And that is so beautiful. And as we're talking about freedom, Limoy, let's dive into this journey into your freedom, into claiming this space of your queerness. And what has that journey look like for you? When we talk about this idea of queerness, how do you define yourself and what does that look like for you?
I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
I'm still figuring that out. My queerness, the questions I have now are, how do I embody my queerness in a way that doesn't center who I'm attracted to? You know, so often we center our queerness to who we're attracted to and who we want to be emotionally and physically intimate with. And my question now to my spirit is, what does queer look like outside of who I want to have sex with?
Yeah.
Who I want to, fall in love with and love. So it's like that embodiment of the fullness of that word, just the oddity of it all, the difference of it all. What does that look like for me?
I really, really love that because interesting. I find there's so many parallels between you and I.
Yes.
Our last conversation, so much of what you said resonated at really deep levels because I feel like the stories have a lot of similarities. And I know for me, I've been pondering that same question and musing on some of the similar thoughts. And as I was doing some of the research, even for this conversation for this month of Pride for me, I realized that, how we talk about all the letters, the LGBTQ, to SPIA, and, a lot of people get confused around what the letters mean or stand for. What really came forward for me was looking at the P, which normally stands for pansexual. And with pansexuality, pansexual is more about that space of having the capacity to just simply love and recognizing that the attraction can be any gender or non-binary person or space. And as I started looking at that a little bit more, it resonated a little bit deeper for me because I, like you, understand my deep attraction, right? Like I will see somebody and, woo, amen and hallelujah, it's just saying, that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Right? But it can be varied. And sometimes I think when I look at the label of what, I consider myself bisexual, it feels sometimes limiting or this sense that I have to pick a side.
Right.
And I just found with pansexuality, it just felt a little bit more expansive. And one of the things that I'm realizing as those letters expand also is how vast and deep that this space of our sexuality in general just sits. And I'm celebrating that we're opening up to and have the options to start to explore that it doesn't have to be a rigid space. What has that been like for you?
Yeah, I find that, and that's the beauty with language. The more that we're exposed to, the more that we learn, is the more that we're able to articulate things more succinctly. And so with the expansion of the letters, is the easier we're able to know who we are. On the other side of that, I do find that when we strictly label ourselves to one thing, it does limit us and it does limit our capacity for the fullness of who we are. And that's why we meander from, point to point. When I first came out, so I first came out to my boyfriend in high school that I remember.
Okay.
When I came out to. He was like, I thought he was the love of my life. We were going to be together forever. He was just this like amazing, beautiful, tall chocolate man.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was one Thanksgiving, and I called him up because I'm a troublemaker. So I'm like, yeah, it's a holiday, and he's with his family at dinner. Let me call him. Let me call him and stir some shit out. So I called him, and I first came out to him as bisexual. I thought that was what my identity was bisexual. Mm-hmm. I told him, and he was so loving. Like, that's fine. He's like, I used to be worried that I would lose you to another man, but now I have to worry I'm gonna lose you to a girl now. Like, what am I gonna do about that? I'm like, no, baby, it's okay. I love you. I'm not going nowhere. I'm just letting you know. And then when I came out to my mom in my 20s, I also told her that I was bisexual. And then in my 30s, so like this time of my life, I realized that it hasn't expanded with me. The term bisexual has not expanded with my growth. And so the term queer, it fits better in my mouth.
Yes.
Okay. Right? Because it gives me the space for all of my attractions, non-binary, trans men, trans women. However, it fits everything. But I will say that my preference is women.
Mm-hmm.
So queer, lesbian leaning, if that's a thing, I don't know.
You know what? It is. I let's talk about that, because I love how you go lesbian leaning. That kind of works, right?
A little bit, just leaning.
Right. Kind of an eye that goes that way. And I think it's important that we talk about that, because I think, once again, we mentioned the idea of these having to be in these set understandings or these set binaries, even within the non-binary, or what's supposed to be a non-binary space. And we were joking the last time we were talking a little bit about that, like when you're considered bi or asexual or queer in this kind of terminology that we're using it in, they're even within the community, they kind of expect you to pick a side.
Yeah.
So, either you're a lesbian, or you're like, straight, or you're, or you're, gay, or you're, I don't know, trans. Like it can't be, or it's not necessarily looked upon in the highest light, that we kind of want to stay in the space of whatever we're feeling.
Right.
And I believe that there's some political stuff that's tied into that, with any pulling together of people and community. Politics happens, right? Yeah. But I think about that idea that you can have a scale. Sexuality for me and attraction is on a scale. And so you just touched into that, right? It is fluid, right? You can have a leaning attraction. I love that, lesbian leaning. I think that's a new if I can use it, I definitely will. Right? Yes. I will make sure I credit you. I love that, like being able to say you have this strong attraction to women, and that's the space you're in. But it's not saying that a dude can't necessarily turn your head too. You can appreciate the fineness of chocolate or the fineness of a beautiful man, right? And I wanted to bring that forward, because I think they're opening ourselves up to these thoughts and ideas makes it understandable that our sexuality and attraction doesn't necessarily tie into who we want to commit to and make love to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because there's this running idea that when you are in our community, or you're queer, you're hypersexual. You know, all it is, it's about the sex, right? And I want you to break that down for me. Talk about that, because you and I know that that's not necessarily the truth.
Yeah, that is not necessarily the truth. And I was actually having that conversation this morning as well. And even on Friday, we touched on it in our last conversation. Whereas for me, my attraction to women specifically, it's embodied in that heart space.
Yeah.
You know, like it's that heart space, it's that spirit space, it's that soul space. The physical intimacy, the physical fineness of a woman, yes, it's yes, right?
God made perfection when he made the woman.
Listen, I don't want to be nowhere else but there. But it's a hard thing for me. And that's why queer fits so much better in my mouth, because I'm attracted to people's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm attracted to their spirit. I'm attracted to their soul. If your soul can spark my soul, it doesn't matter who you look like. It doesn't matter your genitals. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. If your soul can spark my soul, that's what it is.
I love that. I love that so much. And it's real. And I really relate to that. But we were talking, as you mentioned in the last conversation, where and how has the journey taken you to this space of being lesbian leaning?
Yeah, so I've always known that I was queer. I liked girls, women from a very young age. And through life, I've defaulted to men. I've defaulted to that. But after my last relationship, I was with a beautiful, amazing Black man for, some time, and it filled me up, and it really brought me to a space of love. And when we ended the relationship, I made the conscious decision to no longer date cis men. I had that love. I had that great love. I don't need it. I don't need it in anybody else. I don't need to find it, replicate it. I've had it. And in my 30s, I'll say I lived the first half of my life defaulting to men, which is not my natural inclination. It's not, but I chose men for various reasons. I'm now choosing to live the latter half of my life honoring my natural inclination, which is women. I'm allowing myself that freedom to be who I am.
I'm honoring you and celebrating you for just the awareness of that space, for being able to own and hold that, and just celebrating you for the journey of love, that you have had these opportunities to step into the greatness of love, right? And what I think is so amazing about this, and us having this part of the conversation in particular, is that I believe society as a whole is starting to kind of re-examine the way we are sitting in relationships in its entirety.
Yeah.
I really think that prior to now, and you mentioned it, when we defaulted in some of the traditional senses of it having to be a man and a woman, and that idea of a traditional relationship or marriage, it served a purpose and wonderful times. But what I think is that we're as a society sophisticating, or I often talk about there's like this evolution happening, that this secondary evolution of our time and space, where being in relationships are now, it's a different space, man. Yeah. And so the fact that you have had this opportunity to recognize the beauty in, this relationship with this beautiful man in your life, but now wanting to explore this secondary part of your life, what was it that let you know that it might not have been um, you were honoring it yourself, but that you were really lesbian leaning. Like what led you there? What gave you that knowledge?
Oh,
I know that's a deep one. I know. We're going in now.
no,
We're going
that's a
in.
conversation.
Yeah.
So I've always known that I was non-monogamous. I'm a non-monogamous person. The man that I was with is very monogamous. And so I had like he also knew from the beginning that I was non-monogamous, but I made the choice to be with him. I chose him and I resigned myself to a life of monogamy. And throughout our relationship, he would always be like, I know you're not living your full self. I know you're not being your full self. I was like, yeah, but it's fine. It's okay. It's okay. I've chosen this. I'm fine. But he's always just like, I recognize that you're not able to access the fullness of who you are. And in the latter part of 2020, I would say, this beautiful woman swept into my life. Beautiful woman swept into my life. She knocked on my door, and I opened it. I opened the door, and I brought it to him, and I said, "We've always known that this might happen. It's happening now, and we need to have a conversation about this." And so he decided to give me what I needed, which was shifting our relationship model from being monogamous to polyamory. So while I was in a relationship with him, I had the opportunity to also, date and exchange this woman, and she changed everything for me.
Mm.
She changed everything, and being with her let me know that what I've known all along was right.
Hmm.
That's where I need to be. That's where I should be. And after, there was no going back. I couldn't go back to being who I was. She sparked me in a way that no one has ever sparked me before. She ripped me open, and I was like, this is the most natural I felt with another human being. And
Mm.
yeah, it was very intense. It was very intense. So then, my boyfriend and I at the time, we ended our relationship because he was like, you need to be queer. You need to go live a queer life. That's what you need. Um, but she changed everything for me. Like I've known, but it really came front and center for me. And I was just like, yeah, I cannot go back to whatever life I was living before. I can't do that. She changed everything.
Yeah, I see. I'm listening to the story, and just you're so it's so real. It's You really are touching me, and I really appreciate you sharing this with everybody, because um, you for me, you talk about love in such a beautiful and expansive way. And what I immediately pick up is, because you have expanded your visioning of what love is, you were able to invite it into your life. And from so many different areas, I think about this beautiful man who could hold such deep space for you in this journey, and not only offer you love, but be open to your expansion into receiving love from other spaces. I think that is just so, like, wow, wow, wow.
And you know what? It was hard.
Right?
It was hard for both of us. I mean, he was like church going boy, never been exposed to this kind of lifestyle. but he loved me so much and so deeply that he recognized that this is what I needed. I needed this. And although our relationship ended because of it, there's no regrets, like the love was expansive, and it was expansive. And because of the love I have for him, like, I was able to experience real, deep, tangible Black love, that like rum cake on Christmas Black love. Like it was just, it held me.
I love it.
And because of that, I now have a deeper capacity to hold.
I really just want to hold and highlight this experience. And I also love how when you stepped out of your normal and he stepped out of his maybe comfort zone, it offered this great connection that the two of you shared. And my question is, in the expansion, let's call it that, in the expansion of these two relationships, where did it take him? Like, is he okay now? Was there like a fallout or a blowout, or did it kind of flow? Do you know what I mean? Because I know it couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, it's maybe did both. He came to a point where he was just unable to continue. And our relationship model taught me so much about choosing, and it was like our thing was always choosing each other. And it just got to a point where he had to choose himself, and recognize that choosing himself did not include choosing me. And so, as hard as it was, because he was someone that I loved, I honored him choosing himself, and I was happy that he recognized that our relationship was no longer that joyful space, because it brought him too far out of his comfort zone, and it's asked too much of him that he was just not able to hold capacity for.
I'm just breathing that in. Right? And just so much beauty there. I'm honoring and breathing it in, because a lot of the times when we process relationships or in the space of relationships, we don't give, I believe, enough honoring to the challenges that come up. And for most of us, it's just a kiss teeth, or we get vexed, right? And we blow up. And it's bad things, bad-minded business on both sides, and then we drop it. But what you're offering out, and I hope everybody's kind of hearing this, is that how beautiful it can be when we are willing to sit there for a minute and recognize that that choice of love is about both of us. And that sometimes the self-love, having to love yourself, has to take precedence, because our loving relationships are also about lessons.
Yes.
We are being afforded as well.
Yes. And that's exactly it. The conversation we had was just understanding that sometimes the heart space runs out of space. That's okay. So it's okay. And we also both recognize that our relationship wasn't going to recover, because for us to recover, I would need to commit to monogamy, and I could no longer envision myself spending life with someone who was not a woman. And I fought that. I fought that for a while. I was like, no, I could do it. But through the through the coming to terms process, I was like, I would not. It would have ended eventually, either now or 5 years from now. It would have ended eventually because she illuminated the truth that that is where I need to be.
Wow. Such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful um, illumination of who and what this journey can be. And with that understanding that you have, and the space of the polyamory space, I would love to touch that for a bit. What was that like? Could you have continued, like, if, let's say, he was okay with, being polyamorous and being able to have that, could that have been something that you would have been able or would have wanted to maintain, or was it still just a step for you?
I would not been able to maintain it, because through that process, I realized that my polyamory does not look like maintaining multiple relationships at the same time. I could not do it. It is exhausting. It is.
It's a
I always tell
lot.
people, they hear polyamory and think it's just all about sex with multiple people. And I'm like, no, it's me every day texting these two people. Did you eat? How did you sleep? Are you okay? What do you need? am I am I making space for you? What am I like? It's
It's a lot.
it's a lot. Making time for everybody, making sure everybody feels seen, everybody feels heard, everyone feels loved, making sure their schedules are right, going on dates over here, dates over there. Like, it's exhausting.
And then you factor in that you got a little one in there, right? And you got to work, right? It's a lot.
Who has the time? Who has time? I do not. I realize I do not have the time for it. No.
I hear you. And I appreciate you bringing that up because, you're right. People think polyamory is all about that. They think swing and sex and that's it. But the key to being in a polyamorous space is that it's really about the care and maintenance of all of those relationships that you're in.
Everyone involved. Your communication is stepped up to 1,000. And so all of these people now who are freshly claiming polyamory, I'm just like, really? Are you really polyamorous, or are you just unable to be monogamous and you think that more people will solve your problems? No, more people will bring you more problems, because if you have not mastered communication with one person, how you expect to do that with 3-4 people? Everybody's life. You go to everybody.
Bring it. I'm just letting Limoy is telling the truth in the space of that, because that is a really beautiful, beautiful piece of it. You when you choose the lifestyle, when you choose poly, you've got to be on your communication and your enlightenment game. You have got to have done some work.
Your emotional intelligence has to be dialed up to 100. Me, him and I, we would have so many conversations of checking in. How are you doing? How is this? Me and her, so many conversations. Like it's a lot.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with yourself. If you can't read yourself, if you can't be honest and communicate with yourself, and then with your one partner, do not bring another person, because you are going to traumatize everybody in that circle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a gem of advice if you're out there and thinking about creating a polycule, as they're called, or opening up your relationship into spaces. It's really a great time to have some in-depth conversations around expectations, around your own sense of who you are in your truth, understanding that there may be some, lead with feelings of knowing that inadequacies and
Yes.
fears and jealousies are going to come up, and make sure that you're ready to start honoring everybody's space, and be that dial does go up. So we're going
Yeah.
to offer that out there because that is a very real truth. And I just wanted to mention that Colleen mentioned, and I thought it was such a beautiful comment. She goes, I'm so happy she's saying to you, Limoy, I'm so happy that you were able to embrace yourself. And I think that is so real. And so as you move forward in this journey now, and you are recognizing that you're heading into this new beautiful space of relationships with women, what do you think that's going to look like for you? Or do you have any designs on it?
It feels and looks like a coming home. And it looks like living a more intentional lifestyle. Like now I'm so focused on every piece of my life, supporting every decision that I make. So because I've made the decision to just solely focus on romantic things with women, the men that come into my space, I just let them know off the bat, I'm not interested.
Hey.
Fine, you could be gorgeous, you could have the money. If you don't got what I want,
right? You could have one little thing that you may not have.
You don't have it. I'm not interested. And so it even affects who I entertain, who I allow to have access to my energy. It affects the conversations that I have. It affects the music that I listen to. It affects the way that I, like everything supports all of my decisions because I am creating a life of intention. I am being of intention. I was intended to be here. I cannot waste it on frivolity.
Oh, I love this. You are dropping so many gems. You are just dropping so many gems, right? Let's just snap it in. Wow. So for you, coming into this awareness means intentionality. Now it means embracing the fullness. This is what I'm hearing from you anyway. Just embracing the fullness of this experience of you living your best life. Yeah. And with that being said, you're being very particular about who is able to enter into that realm of that truth. Yeah. And I'm curious, how do guys take it when, what has that been like when you say, I'm queer and it's all good, but I may not be looking your way right now, right? Or ever. What are you getting back or ever?
I have men in the DMs who are like, when you come to your senses, holler at me. And I don't even bother to respond, right? Because your energy is not worth interaction with mine. I'm not going to even breathe on anyone who doesn't honor and support me in love. You're not worth it. Right. So I definitely have men who try and interact with me, and also have women as well who try and interact with me. But I have a type. So if you're not my type, I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna. Right. I also have a lot of straight women who try and and I make it very clear I'm not interested in dating straight women. I'm not that for you. I'm not your experiment. I'm not your tryouts. That's not my calling, not my ministry. It's fine. Go kiss your friend and y'all can kiss each other. I'm not that.
That is interesting as well, because I too, once again, relate so deeply to some of the things you're saying. And what I'm curious, how do you handle the like, because what I get is a lot of bi-curious women
Yes.
in particular, right? And that idea of being their first time or turning them out, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Um, what advice would you give? Do you have any for a woman who wants to be opening up herself to this journey of experience? I have some thoughts, but I'm curious to know what you think.
Yeah, I would say if you are bi curious, if you're not sure, connect with someone else who's also bi curious and who's also not sure. Because a lot of um, queer women or just lesbians are very tired of being that experiment. Because a lot of times what happens is women, and I'm not saying this is across the board,
Right?
but there are specific moments where women who have been hurt by men, who are tired, who just want someone to go down on them and them to have an orgasm, you know what I mean? And they will go to a lesbian or a queer woman, and then go back and go back to their man and go back to, and,
Right.
and I remember specifically the conversation I had with the woman that I was dating. On our first date, she asked me, she's like, "Are you here because I'm a woman, or are you here because I'm me?"
Mm.
And that struck me. And I said, number one, I've always been queer. So, you're not an experiment for me, but I'm also here for you. You are a person. I'm interested in you as a person. You being a woman, of course, is like the best perk, but I like you as who you are. And that is the thinking of a lot of lesbians and queer women who prefer women is, are you here for me, or are you here because I am a woman and me being a woman turns you on? So if you're a bi-curious woman, please go find another bi-curious woman and go kiss her, and y'all go experiment on each other together.
I'm loving everything that you're saying, and I really want to offer some space out there for bi-curious women. And actually, I'm going to throw this out there. I've gotten a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? There's been a lot of stuff dropping in my DMs as well, or people's dropping in my DMs, and I'm curious to know, what would it be, or what is, if there's any interest for like a support group for women who are wanting to maybe do some exploration.
Yeah.
Let me know if you've watched this. Put it in a chat if you see this at a later date. Drop me one of those DMs, because I'm feeling very called that there seems to be some space, and it's twofold, I believe. Limoy, I believe that what's happening is that as we are opening up to this idea that we can finally feel safe to be on the scale of our sexuality, a lot of women in particular, because for us, our sexuality has been so tied into the programming that society has told us is right or wrong, right, in our realm. And I believe that as we become safer, a lot of women are breathing into it, but not necessarily having the holding they need to be in the expanse of it in a way. So
Yeah.
one of my things is to, maybe we need to really do some exploration, maybe offer some spaces of holding with the work that I do. So just drop me a line. Let me know if it's something, if a support group, an online group where we can come in and talk about what it feels like or how you can start to explore. Maybe we can offer like some hookups for people that it will work. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. And
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I also agree with you. I agree with you so much that while those of us who may have a little experience in that space, and can offer some holding and help. It almost feels like, and tell me if this resonates with you, you know, like when we've moved into this anti-black racism space, and you know, we have some of our allies coming to us and going, what can we do and how can we help, right? Or what, it almost has that same feel with us being, you know, stepping into our queerness.
Right.
There's a journey that happens through this.
Yeah.
And while we all need hands to help and we all need hands to hold, it's exhausting when that work is expected for to be done off of my back. And so, right, so I almost feel it's like the same idea. I'm willing to you know, answer questions and stuff, but for me to be the person that has to be the drop point for it all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so along with the holding, there has to be an equal balance of care.
Yes.
Are you entering into this space with care? You want to experiment? That's great. That's how you're gonna know. You're gonna know through experimentation. You're gonna know through trying. You know, things will open up for you. But what is the care behind it?
Yes. And I love that is a perfect segue for us to talk about the idea of what does care look like.
Yeah.
And you have mentioned, and we were talking a little bit off camera before we got on here about this delicious and lavish and luscious experience that you have created for yourself in this realm of self care. And what I'm talking about is a part of what it sounds like to me is the way that you hold space for yourself is that you've developed a beautiful self pleasure practice, Limoy. Tell us what that has brought to your life and what that entails for you. What does that mean?
So my self pleasure, it used to be solely focused on my my healthy sexual interactions with myself. And spirit pivoted me to say, I want you to create a life that is centered on pleasure.
Mm.
You know, I want you to create a life that brings you joy, that facilitates your happiness, that allows you to cultivate peace. And when I would sit deeply in that, I think about my ancestors and how pleasure was something that they had to find. They had to cherish the moments of pleasure that they could, you know, working for a system that bred people that hated them, that despised them, that saw them as nothing but commodities, you know? And the first way that spirit introduced a life of pleasure to me was making it very clear that when I am on my cycle, I am not to work.
Mm-hmm.
I am not to work when I'm on my cycle. I am to rest. I am to indulge. I am to take care of myself.
Mm.
And then that
I'm going to stop you. Can you say it again, please? Can you say it again for all of the women who move with the moon? Hear this piece again, please. Limoy, say it again, please.
When I am on my cycle, I am not to work. I am to rest. I am to indulge. And I am to take care of myself. I am not to work. And that is honoring my ancestors who had to work. And because they had to work, they are now saying, child, daughter, it is your turn to rest.
And in that, you are resting for all
I am resting for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so my life, I say I'm cultivating a life of ease. I want an easy life. I don't want a life I have to work hard for. I am the manifestation of my ancestors' hopes and dreams.
Yes.
Everything that they could not have, they are funneling to me. And
Mm.
so I am here to live a life of ease. If I don't want to do it, I ain't gonna do it. And
Hey,
I'm also a Taurus. So if I don't want to do it,
you ain't doing it.
sorry for you, but it's not gonna happen.
And I really want to honor and hold that, because I think what this is, as we talk about this journey into queerness, this has also been a journey into yourself,
Yeah.
into defining what it is you want, choose, and are going to hold space for you, point blank, in your life.
Yes.
And this self-pleasure practice is just one of those things that you're really honoring, because it allows you to just bring this ease that you're talking about.
Yes. And I had to reevaluate my relationship with my body and my relationship with my pussy. I
Mhm.
had to look at the way I treated her, the
Yeah.
way I talked to her, the way that I give her space to make decisions, the conversations that I have about her, the names that I evoke to her. I had to look at the way that she filled me up, and I had to learn how to fill her up. So a part of this pleasure is deep sexual pleasure with myself, learning that I cannot place my feel good in anyone else's hands.
Mhm.
Because there will be lengths of time where there will be no one else. Am I not deserving of pleasure anyways? Am I not worthy of feeling good anyways?
Mhm.
If I never find someone who sparks me that way again, am I not to spark myself?
You are the juiciness of all of your words. Oh, you are a wordsmith, mistress. It is the truth of it. I have found, and I as an intimacy and relationship coach, I really, my passion is about teaching women how powerful it is to be able to step into the fullness of self pleasure. Because what self pleasure is, it's more than just about getting to orgasm and getting to that point of feeling good physically. What happens is when you truly connect in, like you see Limoy over here, you see how Limoy is? When you totally tap into that kind of deepness, what it opens you up is to the temple and the church that exists
Yeah,
in your body.
yeah.
And not just in your body, that connection that you have with the divine, whatever that
Exactly.
is for you.
Yeah, it is a sacred ritualized practice of me worshiping the creation that I am, and learning how to use my orgasms as a vehicle to manifest the grand, easy life that I want. Everything that I have visualized as I am orgasming, has manifested, right? That clarity, that truth, the money, the relationships, the opportunities. I tell her, I said, girl, call everything that you want by name. Call it towards you. And
Well,
she said, okay,
hey, hey.
let's do this. And she has called things towards her. And
And so they met, and so it begins, and it makes perfect sense. You know, when you think about it, Limoy, it makes perfect sense that that would be a thing. We are a vessel that channels life,
Yeah.
right? We are that vessel. We are the creator. We are that incubator of that space. So why would it be any difference when we understand how to tap in?
Yeah.
If your body, if your manifestation of divineness, which is sitting in this feminine form, can bring forth life, it to me, it's not that much of a stretch to go, wait a minute, if it can do that, then why can't it bring me, the $10,000 that I may be looking for next week? Like it all makes sense because this,
Right.
right? So I love that you are mentioning how you have been able to make all of these deep, deep connections, and really honoring how your queerness has taken you down this journey into the essence of you.
Yeah.
And as we are starting to wrap up, because we've got about 5 more minutes of this delicious conversation, I so want to bring us back and do this again. I really want to talk about your self-pleasure practice, because there's so much there that I think, having a candid conversation about will help a lot of women. But as you look at this journey, Limoy, what would you say and offer to those who are listening, those who will listen later, about your journey and what it has brought for you? What are some words of wisdom?
Allow yourself your happiness. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so much of our life is lived in the dishonoring of our happiness. So much of our life is lived in the dishonoring of our joy, because we know what makes us happy. We know what facilitates our happiness and our joy, but because of very valid reasons, we choose otherwise. You know, um, but there's a line in my poem, in a poem that I wrote, that, just paraphrasing, says, "You have to view this as your one life." You know, you need to see this life as the life that you have now. You will never have this life again. Aren't you worth?
Mm. Mm.
Aren't you worth the life that you want? Aren't you worth the desires of your heart? Find out what that is and live it,
Mm.
because you were born by yourself.
Mm.
You are going to pass away by yourself. No one was born with you that has the power to make you live a life you don't want. Aren't you worth the life that you want?
Mm. Mm.
And that's what the journey of my queerness has taught me. I am so deeply deserving of the life that I want.
Mm. Whew. See, I was going to ask you if you wanted to leave us with some of your beautiful words, if you were going to grace us with maybe a few spoken words. But I think you spoke your words, and it was beautiful, and it's powerful. And how do I thank you enough? Thank you for being so brave. Thank you for gifting us with your truth and your light. Thank you for just coming correct, coming
Mm,
at it with just such openness and joy. And I just really appreciate and love you so dearly.
that's
May this be only a beginning and definitely not an end, my love.
Shay. Yes,
All
a Shay
right.
that.
And where can they find you? Can please let everybody know, because I know people are going to be like, who is this? Where can we follow her? So
Yeah,
please.
you can find me on Instagram at _queen_Limoy. You can find me on Twitter at Queen Limoy. I would love to connect and hold more space for for conversations of authenticity and genuine curiosity for sure.
There you have it all.
Thank you for
We
having me.
we are complete for this evening. You are so welcome. This is your forum, Queen. I'm absolutely going to have you back. I really do want us to continue these conversations. This felt so safe and
Yes.
good, right? It felt so safe and so good. And for all of you listening, thank you for joining in, for staying the course, for your comments. If you are finding that you have anything that comes up afterwards, feel free to connect with me, connect with Limoy. We're here to help you and honor you as you travel your own journeys through this. Until next time, we will do this again. We will see you all. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.